Hey there everyone, this is Samuel Johnson and I welcome you back to the Ben 10 Retrospectives, and it will hopefully be better than last week because let's be honest, last video was kind of a crap show. But anyway, today we're going to be discussing episode 42 of the original Ben 10 series, Don't Drink the Water. And I mentioned in the last vlog that this might not be one of my favorite episodes anymore, and admittedly watching it again, it probably isn't, but with that being said, it's still a pretty well done episode. As in this episode, the Tennysons are visiting Florida and they're on a tour of the journey of Ponce de Leon and his search for the Fountain of Youth. And while they're in Florida, and while they're there, Max is just kind of feeling his age for once. And I do mean that for once because this is really kind of the only time that we kind of see him getting the afflictions of being old. Old, like his hearing's not as well, his sight's not doing well. Pretty much while here, and of course Ben's making jokes and again, admittedly, kind of dick moves. But well, and but they wind up wandering into a fair, and Max, to try and prove himself, winds up deciding to go to a dunking tank. But the guy managing it, who I learned from reading the credits, is named Hector. He seems kind of apprehensive of Max going in there, and when Ben manages to dunk him, he's just freaking out. Before we can figure out what's going on, suddenly the park is attacked by Hex. Finally, returning back from season 2, except it turns out that ever since his magic was drained from him in the Tough Luck episode, he's actually faring worse off than Charmcaster, because Charmcaster was still able to do all this stuff. He got older, like a lot, because now he looks like an old man, there's more wrinkles, he's a little hunched over, his face is more sunken in, and he's apparently attacking the amusement park because he wants somebody, because he's looking for someone there, and it turns out to be Hector. But while he's doing that, the Tennysons fight him. He manages to break the water tank, soaking Max further and actually getting Ben a little wet. So Ben goes alien. He fights them. It goes into another fight scene, but in the process, Hex is still looking for Hector, and he gets him to the teacups. Max manages to block Hex off, but in the scuffle, Max gets blasted by one of Hex's beams or whatever it is, but he manages to reflect it, which causes an explosion, which knocks him into a teacup and covers him up, and the teacup covers him. But in the meantime, Hector gets away and Hex disappears before Ben and Gwen can smash him between cannon bolts in a magic-powered bumper car. But at that point, the Omnitrix times out. They hear Ben and Gwen hear Max under the teacup, but then when they lift it up, they find that Max is now 10 years old. He's got red hair, his voice is now higher, and his clothes are baggy. And Max and of course Ben and Gwen are kind of wondering what's going on. Maybe what did Hex do to him? But Max is just enjoying himself because now he doesn't have all the aches and pains that come with being older. He's got his agility back, his hand-eye coordination. He doesn't have to watch what he eat anymore, which I think it's kind of dumb when you think about it, because that's the reason he eats all these weird foods. He's watching what he eats. Yeah, right. So, again, Ben and Gwen think this is something to do with Hex, and of course Max wants to enjoy himself because not only does he have his youth back, but he now has the mentality of a 10-year-old, as he just wants to have fun, wants to play tag, go skateboarding, and even Ben are even playing video games. And this is kind of a nice touch. When he's playing video games, he's playing his avatar that he had in the Game Over episode. But as Gwen's looking through spells, she's starting to wonder if Hex had anything to do with this at all. So they start thinking back to Hector. So they decide that they're going to find a way. They're going to find out what was going on with him. So Max So they pull out an elemental breakdown meter, which is supposed to be something from Max's plumber days, and they do its sample of the water, and it turns out it has 12 times the amounts of oxygen and hydrogen, and has an even higher level of carbon. But before they can and they manage to find the guy's address on what was left of the dunk tank, but before they can do any more investigations, the police arrive, and of course, seeing them with this giant thing, they think they're suspicious. So Ben, rather than explain himself, decides to just go alien, which, yeah, that's the perfect thing to do with the police. But when he transforms, and when he ends up transforming to Four-Arms is now shorter, skinnier, and a bit less bulky. It turns out that it turns out that they pretty much guessed this. The water when it not only got over Max, but of course, as I mentioned before, Ben got doused with it, so now he's turned into a 4-year-old, and as such, so have all of his aliens. Which, admittedly, for some reason, the change only happens when they are not seen, because Max was under a teacup when he got turned into 10. He got turned from 60 to 10, and Ben had to transform in order to turn from 10 to 4. So they managed to get to the rust bucket without anybody chasing them, and then we see Max as a 4-year-old, which I think is both. Which, admittedly, here's the kind of a nice thing. Ben as a 4-year-old is admittedly both annoying and adorable all at once, because he's just kind of cute. Because it's just kind of cute seeing to see 4-year-old Ben running around, and like Max's mentality has been reduced to a 10-year-old, Ben's mentality has been reduced to a 4-year-old. He whines more, he complains more, he's more amused with all these other things. He even ends up talking like this with using W's and voice of other letters. It's actually it is just amusing, and it's still Tara Strong doing Ben's voice, and it's just kind of it kind of feels like a mix between. It kind of feels like it feels like the voice she did for Baby Dill Pickles. It really except now he can talk. It's amusing. It's really amusing and annoying, and I say amusing because again seeing a baby Ben is just is just funny, and annoying because it's a baby Ben, and from firsthand experience, babies can be annoying. But anyway, they managed to track Hector down to a ranch that he owns. Turns out Hex got there first and attacked him, but Hex manages to attack them with a giant thing. We see more Ben fighting it. They manage to free Hector, and Hector reveals that it turns out that Ponce de Leon, in his search of the Fountain of Youth, he actually did find it, but it was sworn to keep it a secret, and Hector was one of his soldiers, and so Hector has been charged with guarding it for about 400 years. As such, he's been drinking the water to keep himself young, and Max, of course, thinks that's a dream come true, but Hector reveals that, yeah, that's not really good, because being like this, you can't have any loved ones because they get older and you wouldn't, and admittedly, that's kind of something that you can kind of call in question about, because if he told them this, if he found someone he really cared about, he could have told them, but he was sworn to secrecy, so I don't know. And while I'm on this, I might as well talk about this, because I'm gonna actually, you know what, I'll save this complaint for later, because it's a complaint that does get on my nerves. But so anyway, they realize they can't let Hex get to the water. They can't get to the Fountain of Youth because that's the information he wanted. So they took one of Hector's jeep, but they end up facing off against giant vines, which Ben is able to take care of by going Stinky Fly, which is the 4-year-old Stink Fly. He can fly. He uses his tail more, and he has deadly gas, and it does sound exactly as I just described it. But anyway, after Ben takes care of them, they get to the fountain, but Hex got there first. He's now back to how he was. He's now more powerful, and of course he's just and it looks like that they're screwed. So Gwen tells Ben that we're done. Even if you went heat blast or something, he would still beat you. So Ben, being Ben and a 4-year-old, he decides to go heat blast. Hex easily is able to kick Hex is just brushing aside all of his attacks, and Gwen keeps taunting him until finally he just goes ballistic. And it turns out Gwen was doing this all on purpose because she wanted him to go have a meltdown and go supernova hot, evaporate, pretty much eradicating all the water and just sending Hex flying. So pretty much the Fountain of Youth is destroyed, and Hector reveals that in order for Hex to continually being used, in order to stay young, you have to keep drinking it. So Max and Ben should be reverting back to normal, which they do. And the episode ends with Charmcaster, I guess, being let out of prison on good behavior. Because, again, prisons in the Ben 10 universe are kind of stupid. And she finds him as a kid, and it's just amusing just to see her walking away. So, anyway. Well, first, what I like about this episode, for one thing, Hex has really put in his A game in this episode. Like I mentioned, Charmcaster's still kind of better, if you ask me, but Hex in this one is desperate, like really desperate. He's getting older, he's getting weaker, and he's becoming legitimately he's becoming very threatening in this regard. Like, he's just, like, of course, it's Hex's usual brand of don't be patient and wait, but in this case, you can kind of give the excuse that because he's getting older, he's getting very less patient with everything. And so when he looks for Hector, who's actually voiced by Josh Keaton, that's a nice little tidbit I recognize, if you recognize this voice. When he's looking for Hector, he just is being ballistic. He's just being desperate. He's just being very angry. Even in the beginning of the episode, you see him going to this old Chinese shopkeeper who tells him about the Fountain of Youth because he has a drop of water from it. And he's just he's just desperate. He really does not. Again, you can kind of make sense. You can't make sense. He was a younger man now now rapidly aging into an old man. That is a scary thought. So it really is interesting. Let me think. And so he really does bring his A game as a villain. When he does get the water, it is just kind of nice seeing him go nuts with his power. It is really cool. Another thing I like is just seeing seeing Max and Ben younger. I like, because again, Ben as a 4-year-old is both annoying and fun, but it's still kind of nice. But it still has some nice work from Terra Strong, and I like seeing Max kind of reduce from this mentor figure down to a kid who's similar to Ben in some regards. So you can kind of see where he got some of his attitude from, and it's also kind of nice. And again, as someone who likes the alternate designs for aliens, I like seeing the 4-year-old versions of the aliens. Like again, there was the 4-year-old Forearms. There was Wild Pup and Stinky Fly, which were the alternate names for Wildmutt and Stinkfly, obviously. Wild Pup is really just a smaller and, I think, weaker version of Wildmutt. And Stinky Fly, as I mentioned before, he still can shoot gunk out of his eyes and so forth. And he actually does use his tail for actually slice through the giant plant monsters they come across, but he ultimately defeats them using deadly, deadly gas. And again, it sounds exactly as I describe it. It's charming, to say the least. And again, I think it actually is creative how Ben, and I do like how 4-year-old Heat Blast is able to take out Hex, and it actually is a nice, clever usage of Gwen. She knows that today and Ben don't get along, and Ben being a 4-year-old, his temper is now higher. So just to see him go nuts and actually use that to his advantage, actually get Ben's anger to destroy the Fountain of Youth is actually pretty nice and interesting. So we still have some nice parts, some nice actions, and I think the moral is very nice. I still kind of call into question why Hector couldn't have easily just maybe told someone, but otherwise, yeah, I think it's fine. I like it. I think the moral is nice that you savor the time you have on Earth, because eventually because it can't last forever. Don't let. So, again, good lesson. Now I'm going to talk about the giant plot hole, which actually does get on my nerves. And here's the thing. When I was a kid, I didn't really think about this. I thought this episode was my favorite just for the alternate designs of the aliens. But now that I'm older, I see this flaw, and it is a big one. Because I mentioned before how Max and Ben got younger because they were doused some water in the dunking tank, which was apparently water from the Fountain of Youth. Why was it there? Like, why? I'm curious, because I'm genuinely curious. Hector apparently took a job at the amusement park there, and he got a job as the dunking tank. So my question is, why would you fill this attraction in this amusement park with water from the very thing you're sworn to protect? The thing you're supposed to keep a secret. And again, he does try and ward people off by saying, oh, it's out of order, No! You can't make that excuse, because there's nothing wrong with it. It works exactly how it does. Throw a ball at a target, someone gets dunked. And I don't understand this. It's like it's asking someone to find you. Maybe he wanted someone to find him. Maybe he wanted someone to find the Fountain of Youth. Maybe he got sick of his job. Or I don't know. Maybe he thought, oh, it's a hot day out in Florida. Maybe I'll just take some water from the Fountain of Youth in case I get thirsty. Or I don't know. It seems like an intentional design flaw. Like a very big design flaw. Because you can't mess that up. Maybe, I don't know, maybe the fair tapped into a reservoir or something. I don't know. And he thought, oh, I can't let them do that. Maybe I should man it. I don't know. But you have to fill that up. You can't make that mistake. And again, he tries warding people off. But Max gets in, and he gives Ben and Gwen balls, and he was hoping they would miss, and they missed the first 2 times. Then he tries to tell them to go away, but they don't. Ben manages to get it in. There's the possibility. You could have gotten caught. Why did you put water from the Fountain of Youth, the thing you're supposed to be protecting, in this thing that people wanted dunked in? I'm sorry, I'm getting mad over this little thing. It's a big plot hole. And it's a very big issue. And again, it becomes the central plot device for how Max and Ben get younger. But out of that, I don't see a reason why he would have done that. It's like it's asking people to find you. It's like it's asking people. It's like if someone gets dunked in there, and it's like if your dad got dunked in there, and suddenly he's 13 again. I don't know, 13 again. At that point, you start asking questions. That it's like he was wanting to be caught. I don't understand it. It's a big plot hole. I don't understand why he would do this. And again, maybe the bear tapped into a reservoir or something, and then he had to man it to make sure no one got caught. But they don't explain that. It's never mentioned, and to my knowledge, it's not mentioned in any supplemental material. So it's a big plot hole. And so much of the plot centers around that little decision. Again, I kind of went nuts there, because honestly, aside from that, I think it's still a fine episode. I think I like seeing Hex be more dynamic and really be more back to being threatening again. I like seeing Ben and Max younger, which is amusing. Seeing their mentalities get lowered, and I think the moral is still rather nice. And again, I think aside from that giant glaring plot hole, I think the rest of the episode still holds up. It's still a fine episode with some good. It's still a fine episode with good action, good characters, and still a good moral. So, yeah, still a good episode. Go watch it if you want to. So, yeah, can't really think of anything else to say. So, yeah, I'm Samuel Johnson. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next week for another episode. I can't really think of anything. It's not really a big enough draw. Maybe, I don't know. Well, the title's a parody of my big fat Greek wedding. So anyway, never mind. This is going on long enough. So anyway, thank you for watching. I'm Samuel Johnson, and I'll see you then. Take care.